And thank you so much for coming and spending the time today to listen to us present about our project. My name's Anna,
I'm Samiha.
I'm Yuxin.
and we are a public policy master's student at Carnegie Mellon, and we partnered with the National League of Cities last year to create a project focused on putting money back into the hands of working people through tax benefits. And I'll have the next slide. Cool. So our partner was the National League of Cities. They're a nonprofit that partners with over 2,700 city governments nationwide to develop and scale innovative community programming and advocate for the city needs at the federal level. Many of the National League of Cities partners rely on federal anti-poverty programs like tax benefits to support low-income families and provide critical cash refunds for families to spend anything from electricity bills to childcare, just giving that autonomy back to families. And there's a massive amount of potential in these tax credits because they are cash-based refunds. However, the National League of Cities, they approached us with this issue with their partner cities that they were seeing like over and over again. It was that 20% of eligible families nationwide were not receiving those earned income tax credits, and especially after the pandemic. And there's billions of dollars being left on the table for these tax benefits that are continuing to drive up child poverty rates and financial insecurity. Um, Luckily, these benefits can be claimed retroactively. That's what makes them unique. So you can still apply for them after the deadline has passed. And we really wanted to dig into this topic and figure out why these eligible tax credits were missing out on these life-changing tax benefits. In the next slide, please. So we really recognize going to this that we are an outside party. We're researchers. We're not familiar or as familiar as people who've been dedicating their entire careers to this topic. So we really wanted to connect with people. And so we conducted interviews with about 12 tax support stakeholders nationwide. And this ranged from community organizers to local governments, researchers to help identify these barriers of the tax credit uptake. And one thing that we saw over and over again was that the overarching problem was that people were just not filing for taxes. So we really wanted to create a solution to target this. Have the next slide, please. All right. And we realized that we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, right? We wanted to just promote something that was already in existence. And for us, that was the IRS funded and supported Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, or VITA, that helps low income, disabled, and English language learners file taxes for free. And we did this through a three-phase program. The first one was to incentivize tax filing through targeted and updated marketing. Phase two was once a family wants to file taxes, we want to make it really easy for them to locate that VITA site. Phase three, we wanted to help VITA sites decide where and how to target their services and create a data-driven solution to evaluate the impact that those EDC filings have had. And I'll pass on to Yuxin to talk more about phase one and two.
Thank you, Anna. So phase one is a marketing campaign designed to be simple enough for low capacity agencies to easily implement. So local governments and social service agencies are usually pressed for time, staff, resources. So we wanted to create a tool that someone could easily implement tomorrow with little effort, and they also have free editing access to our flyers and can tailor them using language that best encourages their community to file. So current IRS guidelines for EITC marketing are filled with technical and intimidating jargons about income eligibility and documentation. And our stakeholders have also shared that lower English proficiency is associated with a lower likelihood of claiming the EITC. And so we created these flyer templates with knock numbers and slogans that incentivize tax filing in multiple languages, such as English, Spanish, and Mandarin, and that can be expanded to more as well. And we wanted to make sure to use user-friendly language on the benefits of filing, including the dollar value of a refund and potential purchase options. We're also promoting tax filing year-round because it's not just during the tax season that they can file. And also it takes time to renew documentation, and we don't want the lag to discourage people from filing. And also those who miss out on EITC can still claim it anytime within 4 years of eligibility. So there's no need to wait for a specific tax season. Next slide, please. So moving on to phase two, once a family is incentivized to file taxes in the first phase, we want to make it easy for them to get the support that they need to file these taxes accurately and get their refund, which means connecting them with VITA sites. At the time of the project, we found that the IRS database of VITA site locations was outdated, and none of the locations in Pittsburgh where we're based are listed. So in phase two, we want to model a website with an interactive map that allows VITA sites to publicize their services more transparently and help users locate free and accurate filing support nearby. It also doubles as a crowdsourcing data collection tool that asks VITA sites to provide accurate information about their services so that they can be added to the database. Our platform on the front end allows users to input their zip code and the distance they're willing to travel to reach a VITA site. And once they have that information, they will be taken to a list of VITA sites, including a map of each location, the services, the language services that they offer at each site, whether the site takes walk-in, scheduled appointments, or both, their capacity, and also nearest bus routes. And this is important because our stakeholders have shared with us that families find VITA sites unhelpful because they will be turned away at the door due to full capacity or not having appointments. So having this information on the platform will help bridge that miscommunication. And finally, this mock website is an example of that a local government or social service agency can take inspiration from and make their own list of local tax services. And we recognize that this phase might require more time, effort, and resources than phase one, as compiling all available local VITA sites and information takes effort. And is likely to need a dedicated staff or team to actually make it work. And I will pass it off to Samiha for phase three and the conclusion.
Yeah, thanks, Yuxin. So for phase three, the National League of Cities, actually, their initial ask of us was to use this federal data set called the IRS Statistics of Income data set to try and predict where to target tax support outreach. However, we found very early on that quantitative methods only capture households that have successfully received benefits, not those who are eligible but do not file. That's the population we're trying to reach. So to actually identify the location of those who need VITA services, we created a local estimation methodology calculating the EITC filing rate by zip code. This is based on EITC eligibility requirements, including household income, marital status, and number of dependents. Now, this data is not publicly available, but state leaders have it due to state access to state-level tax filing data, and they can use it to estimate the true filing rate. Once you estimate this number of eligible filers or missed filers by zip code, governments and nonprofit agencies can then implement our phase one and phase two tools and then evaluate how the filing rate has changed in a zip code over time. For example, a decision maker would prioritize areas with a low filing rate for expanded VITA coverage and pop-up tax clinics, and they could conduct more user research in those low-income zip codes to identify what tailored solutions need to be done for outreach. This is a lot more labor intensive than phase one and two, which is a limitation and likely requires a designated data analyst for the city or state level who is skilled in causal inference to try and isolate the effect of outreach over time amidst other confounding events. But as we can see on the next slide, even if you are not able to use all three of our phases, we can still tailor parts of them to appeal to each community's hyperlocal needs. So the National League of Cities distributed our materials to the New York City Mayor's office, who implemented them in the New York City Housing Authority developments, which is the largest public housing project in the United States, using empowering slogans and using a chart in print, a print version of our phase two site. And also, we developed these materials in December 2025, handing them off to the client over the winter, and they were able to implement it this tax filing season, which we know ends in April. So we hope that as our audience in this meeting, you would actually be able to take this tool and share it with your members, especially as we look at other social service agencies that will be losing benefits like SNAP within the next week. VITA and the EITC are essential for helping putting money back into the hands of working families. And we'll open up the floor for questions.